Hello and welcome to my latest video, and as said yesterday, after finishing the Harry Greb career video, we are back onto the top 1000 countdown for an extended period over 10 videos. So I don't know how long I'll keep going until I catch up on myself, and then I'll go on to more career videos while I get more of these ready. So we'll see how far I can get this time. So from where we left off, 810 to 801, we now continue listing fighters 800 to 791. So fighter number 800 is James Bone Crusher Smith, pictured fighting the great Larry Holmes. James Smith beat 3 world champions. He fought 98 rounds against champions, and he scored no wins over Hall of Famers individually. He did fight 42 rounds against Hall of Fame fighters, and James Smith had a total of 16 fights against rated opponents throughout his career. Now Smith scored 32 knockouts, 19 of them in 3 rounds. He also scored 6 in the first round. James Smith was top 10 rated for 2 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 14 fights. James Smith was also never pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings. Now against pound for pounders, Smith had 3 fights overall, but he scored no wins in 3 pound for pound categories, and his opposition fought rate comes in at 3 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So in terms of fights against champions, James Smith had 11. That includes 4 wins, 7 losses, no draws, and 3 KOs. He had 4 fights against Hall of Famers. All of them are defeats. And he had 3 world title fights, scoring 1 win with 2 losses, no draws, and no title defences. So James Smith is fighter number 800. Fighter number 799, is Randall Bailey. Now Randall Bailey, beat 3 world champions. He fought 89 rounds against champions, and Bailey also, like Smith, beat no Hall of Fame fighters. He did fight 6 rounds against Hall of Famers throughout his career, and Bailey had a total of 12 fights against rated opponents. In terms of knockouts, he scored a career total of 39, 28 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 19 in the first round. Now Bailey was top 10 rated for a total of 3 years. The longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 21 fights, and Randall Bailey, like James Smith, was never pound for pound rated. Now he did have 1 fight against a pound for pounder, but scored no wins in the 3 pound for pound categories, and Randall Bailey's opposition fought rate is 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So fights against champions, Bailey had 11. That included 3 wins, 8 losses, no draws, and 2 KOs. He had 1 fight against Hall of Famers that was a defeat, and he had a total of 10 world title fights, including 4 wins, 6 losses, no draws, and 2 title defences. So there's Randall Bailey in 799. When we go to fight number 798, is Henry Maskey. Now Henry Maskey himself defeated 5 world champions. He fought 76 rounds against champions, and he beat 1 Hall of Fame fighter, Maskey. He also fought 24 rounds against Hall of Famers in his career, and against rated opponents, Maskey comes in with a total of 10. Now he scored 11 knockouts, 5 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 1 in the first round, and he was top 10 rated for a total of 4 years, with the longest unbeaten run that stretched to 30 fights. Now Maskey was never pound for pound rated. He did have 4 fights against pound for pound fighters, and Maskey scored 3 wins against pound for pounders overall. He also scored 2 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters, but 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And his opposition fought rate comes in at 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So Henry Maskey had 7 fights against champions. That includes 6 wins, 1 loss, no draw, with 2 KOs. He had 2 fights against Hall of Famers. That includes 1 win, 1 loss, no draw, and no KOs. And he had a total of 12 world title fights. That includes 11 wins, 1 loss, no draw, and 10 title defences. So Henry Maskey had a larger title fight record than some people may realise. When we go to fight number 797, we're going back to the old time again, to heavyweight contender Frank Slavin. Now Slavin beat 2 world champions. He fought 31 rounds against champions, and Slavin beat 1 Hall of Fame fighter, fighting a total of 24 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now pre-rating era, so he has no fights against rated opponents, but Slavin was a decent puncher, scoring 38 knockouts 28 knockouts were inside 3 rounds or less, and 8 were in the first round. Now Slavin, obviously, again, never top 10 rated with no rankings. His longest unbeaten run was one of 21 fights, and he was pound for pound rated for 1 year. Now Frank Slavin had 4 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 1 win. Okay, but he scored 0 wins against pound for pound top 3 or pound for pound number 1 fighters. And his opposition fought rate comes in at 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So Slavin had 7 fights against champions. That includes 2 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw with 2 KOs. He had 4 fights against Hall of Famers. That included 2 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw with 2 KOs. And Frank Slavin, interestingly, never had a world title fight. So on to our next fighter, okay, is Giovanni Segura. A good puncher. You know, I was hoping Roman Gonzalez would mix it with him when Gonzalez was at Superfly, but sadly never happened. Would have been a bit of a war for as long as it lasted. I think Gonzalez would have beat Segura, but it should have been a lively bout while it lasted. So Giovanni Segura beat 5 world champions. He fought 68 rounds against champions, and he beat 1 Hall of Fame fighter. Segura also for 11 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. And Segura had a total of 11 fights against rated opponents. Now in terms of knockouts, he scored 29, 15 of them in 3 rounds or less, and Segura scored 11 first round wins. Now Segura was top 10 rated for a total of 6 years. His longest unbeaten run was one of 20 fights in total, and he was never pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings. Now Giovanni Segura had 1 fight against pound for pound fighters, but scored no wins in the 3 pound for pound categories, and his opposition fought rate is 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So Giovanni Segura, okay, had 9 fights against champions. That includes 6 wins with 3 losses, no draws, and 5 KOs. He had 2 fights against Hall of Famers, scoring 2 wins with 2 KOs, and he had a total of 8 world title fights. That included 5 wins, 3 losses, no draws, and 5 title defences. Yeah, explosive little fighter down there, Giovanni Segura, big puncher for sure. So on to our next fighter, okay, is Brazilian fighter João Henrique. Now, João Henrique beat 1 world champion. He fought 71 rounds against champions. And Henrique beat 1 Hall of Fame fighter, fighting a total of 35 rounds against them overall. He also comes in with a total of 12 fights against rated opponents. And in terms of knockouts, he scored 33. Okay, 13 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 1 in the first round. Now, he was top 10 rated for a total of 5 years. The longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 28 fights. And João Henrique was never pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings. He did have 5 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 1 win, but he never scored a win over a pound for pound top 3 or pound for pound number 1 rated fighter. And his opposition fought rate is 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. Now, Henrique had 6 fights against champions. That includes 1 win, 4 loss, 1 draw with 0 KOs. He had 3 fights against Hall of Famers. That is with a record of 1 win, 1 loss, and 1 draw with 0 knockouts. And he had 4 world title fights, but lost all 4 attempts. So a 4-time world title challenger just couldn't get that title that would have put him on the champion list for all eternity. So from João Henrique, okay, we go to fight number 794, okay, to the capable Guti Espadas. Now, Guti Espadas beat 2 world champions. He fought 66 rounds against champions. Interestingly, never beat a Hall of Fame fighter, nor did he fight any rounds against Hall of Famers. But Espadas, okay, had 13 fights against rated fighters. He scored a total of 28 knockouts, 10 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 4 in the first round. Now, Espadas was top 10 rated for a total of 5 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 25 fights. Now, he was never pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings, nor did he have any fights against pound for pounders throughout his career, so therefore scores no wins in the 3 pound for pound categories. And his opposition fought rate is 1 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So against champions, Guti Espadas had 7 fights in total, including 3 wins, 4 losses, no draws, with 2 knockouts. He has no fights against Hall of Famers, and in world title fights, he has a total of 8 world title fights, including 5 wins, 3 loss, no draw, and 4 title defences. So people, 3 fighters to go. The first of them is former light heavyweight contender Art Wiegand. Now Art Wiegand, okay, beat 2 world champions. He fought 34 rounds against champions, and Wiegand beat 1 Hall of Fame fighter. He fought 23 rounds overall against Hall of Famers. And against rated fighters, he comes in with a total of 23 rated fights. Now in knockouts, Wiegand scored 17 knockouts, 11 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 5 in the first round. He was top 10 rated for a total of 1 year, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 14 fights. Now, Wiegand was never pound for pound rated. He did have 4 fights against pound for pounders and scored 1 win against pound for pounders, pound for pound top 3 and pound for pound number 1 rated fighters. His opposition fought rate comes in at 3 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 2 from 13. So Art Wiegand had 5 fights against champions. That includes 2 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw with 0 KOs. He has 3 fights against Hall of Famers. That includes 1 win, 2 losses, no draws with no knockouts, and Art Wiegand had 0 world title fights. Now 2 to go. The first of them is former bantamweight champion Tony Marino. Tony Marino beat 2 world champions. He fought 87 rounds against champions, and Marino beat no Hall of Fame fighters. He did fight 33 rounds against Hall of Famers overall, and he had a combined total of 17 fights against rated opponents throughout his career. Now Marino scored 7 knockouts, 2 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 1 in the first round, and he was top 10 rated for 1 year, with the longest unbeaten run that ran to a total of 12 fights. Now Marino was never pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings. He did have 2 fights against pound for pound fighters, but scored no wins in the 3 pound for pound categories, and Marino's opposition fought rate comes in at 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So Tony Marino has 8 fights against champions. That includes 2 wins, 6 losses, no draw with 1 KO. He has 3 fights against Hall of Famers, all of which are defeats, and he has 2 world title fights, scoring 1 win, 1 loss with 0 title defences. So people, there's 9 fighters down. Let us go on to fight number 10 now, final fighter of this video, and it is former contender Sam Boland. Okay, Sam Boland beat no world champions. He fought 28 rounds against champions, and Boland beat no Hall of Fame fighters. He did fight 49 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. He also, being pre-rating era, has 0 fights against rated opponents. Now Sam Boland scored 16 knockouts, 6 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 1 in the first round, and he was top 10 rated for 0 years, of course, being pre-rating era fighter. Now Sam Boland's longest unbeaten run ran to a total of 19 fights. He was never pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings, but he did have 13 fights against pound for pound fighters. He only scored 1 win in there against pound for pounders, but he scored 0 wins against pound for pound top 3 or pound for pound number 1 rated fighters. And Sam Boland's opposition fought rate comes in at 4 from 18. His opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So, fights against champions, Boland had 4, scoring no wins with 3 losses and 1 draw, 0 KOs of course, and he comes in with a total of 6 fights against Hall of Fame fighters with no wins, 4 losses and 2 draws, again obviously with no KOs, and Sam Boland had 0 world title fights. So Sam Boland ends this latest video. We've gone from 800 to 791. Like I say, once 10 are done, I'm going to push beyond that, maybe another extra 4, 5 or 10. However many I get done in extra to the initial 10, I'm just going to put a big push to get the countdown cooking properly. But there's the first video. More videos coming over coming days and weeks and months. So I'm the Boxing Librarian, and I'm out for now.